Can you accomplish a no-hit run of Elden Ring without actually being good at the game? The answer is yes, kind of. Hear me out here. A no-hit run is a playthrough of Elden Ring in which you aim to beat the game while never getting hit by anything. That's the obvious part. The community defines a hit as being a loss of health and or stagger caused by an enemy. Damage from terrain like lava and rot doesn't count. The only exception to that being lethal fall damage, because that's just a hit from your own stupidity. This is probably one of the hardest challenges for these games, and since I've never done one personally, I wanted to give it a shot. The problem is that they are hard, like frustratingly hard sometimes, so I needed to find a good starting point to even attempt this run. After watching Gino Machino no-hit this game billions of times with a bunch of different strategies, I became inspired to plan out an entire run that avoids most of the difficulty of the game by using every single dirty, cheap and disgusting strategy that the game has to offer. Now, with all of that said, let's play some goddamn Elden Ring. Alright, first of all, we're gonna start off with the Astrologer class, together with the Rune Gift. We're gonna be relying on sorcery for the beginning quite a lot, so this is a no-brainer. After we buy the crafting kit and the pots, we swing over to our Bay Melina and collect our trusted steed Torrent. You really shouldn't get hit in the first areas, so I'll go through it rather quickly. The setup also requires a lot of things, but it's all gonna be worth it in the end, trust me. At the Stormhill Shack, we grab our first Stone Sword key. We're gonna be needing a total of 3 in the end. After that, we swing by the merchant near the bridge to grab more pots, and near the ruins we collect the Trina's lilies. These bad boys are gonna allow us to craft sleeping pots, which will actually be essential for the run. After taking a precise fall, we collect the runes in the graveyard, the Fevor's cookbook, and nearby grab our physics flask in the church. From here, we want to go and teleport ourselves to Caelid. To avoid going near the dragon, we perform this precise jump onto the tree, carefully maneuvering around Malikev's dwarves, and avoid the knight's cavalry by utilizing the tree stump. At Lena's Rise, we grab the Memory Stone, and in the nearby graveyard, even more runes. After riding over to Fort Faroth, we go west in the direction of the Divine Tower and collect the Somber 9 and the Somber 8 smithing stones. We continue our journey westward until we encounter this exact merchant. He sells the first really important item for the run, the Beast Repellent Torch. This bad boy scares every beast type of animal, like rats and dogs for example, so they don't mess with you, meaning we have less enemies to worry about overall, which is really a godsend. From here we want to hop onto the giant skull for our second Stone Sword key, and after stop by our gal Millicent and hop down into the town of Celia to complete our first real stealth mission. See, this is the reason why I really like no-hit runs. In traditional runs, you can just ignore most of the enemies, as taking a hit here and there doesn't really matter all that much. But now, each hit matters, so we need to use every mechanic of the game to its full potential, in this case, stealth. Here we want to light 2 towers. The first one is easy enough. After that, we want to grab the Staff of Loss, and continue onto the rooftop to take out this idiot first, very carefully mind you. After jumping across the rooftops to get to the second tower, we want to also take care of these 2 idiots, because they can throw fire pots. We need to be very careful, or otherwise you might get hit. Just in front of the second tower lies also the third and final Stone Sword key. Once you get to this specific rooftop, you want to drop down onto the balcony and wait for the old sorcerer to turn his back. After he does so, we drop down and collect our prize, Night Comet, our first main spell of the run. So far, so good. We do need a couple of more things here though. In the Ionian Swamp, we want to go grab the spell The 3 Rocks together with the Meteorite Staff. The game has a lot of boss variety, so a lot of different tools are gonna be needed to take care of the job. We're going to collect the medallion halves soon, but let's first collect even more Trina's lilies nearby the minor Earth in Limgrave, and then use this jumping platform followed by another jumping platform to get our ass safely onto the Weeping Peninsula. Here we first grab the Morning Star, then buy some cookeries from the merchant, and nearby the Broken Wall we collect the spell Poisonous Mist. I'm pretty sure most of you can guess on which boss this will be actually used on. This run is gonna require a ton of runes for the initial boost, so to expedite the process, we will collect a gold foot just nearby the first step and then go over to Grail and beat the ever-loving crap out of him with a Morning Star. His nourishment will go a long way to further our cause. Thanks, Grail. Now we want to level up exactly like this. 38 intelligence, 12 faith and 10 arcane. The reason for all of that will be apparent shortly, don't worry. We also want to buy a Memory Stone, Dagger, Rapier, Sacred Seal and Longbow, which we can all buy from the Twin Maiden in the Round Table Hold. Once all of that is done, it's time to take our first major risk. Let's go through Fort Faroth first, as it is the harder one. You need to ride with Torrent and jump off the staircase, hitting the wall in front of you. This will draw the attention of the enemies inside. Then you sneak through, hugging the sides and continue straight until you get to the ladder. From here we are safe, and the first half of the medallion is ours to grab. For Fort Hive, I just recommend taking things slowly and taking out most of the enemies inside the castle with Night Comet. That way no unnecessary risks will be taken. We do need to kill this idiot, but thankfully Night Comet is just broken, so there is no need to worry about here too much. He will drop us the Ash of War Bloody Slash, which we will be making great use of later on. With the second half of the medallion in our possession, it's time we make our way slowly onto the Altus Plateau. Before we start our journey to Liurnia though, we need to murder a couple more people first. The first one on the list is Bernal near his shack. Bernal thankfully falls very easily due to Night Comet. Just put some good distance between you and him and he should be done. He gives us his bell bearing, which we will be cashing out later for a special item. Don't give the bell bearing to the Twin Maiden yet. Nearby, we also want to murder another knight for the good old Ash of War Golden Vow. An 11.5% damage increase never hurt anybody. First things first, we want to take down the Deathrite bird that spawns here at night. We do that by positioning ourselves on the pile of debris and pfeffering him with Night Comet. As long as you're careful and do not overspam the Night Comet, you should be okay. He drops us the Red Feather, which boosts our damage output by 20% when on low HP. These risk-reward type of items are almost never useful in a normal playthrough. But if we just don't get hit, we can reap all the benefits without any of the drawbacks. While we are here, we also want to start Ria's questline, as she will be needed to gain fast access to Volcano Manor for another key item. Beforehand though, we backtrack to collect the 2-finger talisman and afterwards teleport to the academy to grab the academy key along with some kukris. Kukris are some of the most useful items for this run, but it's kinda not obvious from the start. Once we have all of that, we want to maneuver our ass to the Divine Tower in this area. To access the tower safely, we want to do some clever parkour shenanigans. Jump onto this railing slowly and stick to the far right of that railing as well. As long as you walk slowly upwards, Perceptor Miriam shouldn't be spawned, which is honestly something that I started doing in my casual runs too, cause fuck that guy. Anyways, near the top we grab the Carrion Glintstone staff. We do plan to use Carrion Slicer for this run, so a 15% damage boost from the staff is really good. Here is a good time to mention, whenever you are feeling unsafe in an area during the run, you always have the option to activate the Memory of Grace item to teleport you to your previous Site of Grace. That actually comes really handy during some specific boss fights later on. Upon our further traversal of Liurnia, we grab the Grace near the Turtle Pop, dog, and head over to EG for some good old Smithing Stone access. You should have enough runes here to buy all of them immediately, but if you're missing some, there is a neat little graveyard nearby with some extra runes on hand. Now, after we ride the Dectus lift upwards and hold the hand of our beautiful hunchback wife Ria, we get teleported to Volcano Manor. After speaking to Tenef and celebrating our glorious general, we hop back into the Round Table Hold. Here now we have the option of setting up our Ashes of War at our trusty smithy, cause now we are in the preparation to face our first boss fight. The one in question is going to be the Nox Duo fight in the town of Celia. We have already opened the way to the fight, so now just the fight remains. Here we use Bloody Slash to activate Red Feather Talisman to boost our damage. We then buff with Golden Vow for even more of a buff to our damage. Holding the Staff of Loss in our offhand, we go in. Sticking to the wall, we fire one charged Night Comet, followed by 2 regular ones to take out the first enemy. We then reposition to beat down the second one, and that's pretty much the fight. Easy, right? All the fights are designed to be as scripted as possible. I basically try to find an algorithm to defeat every single boss in the game. The safer we are at fighting the bosses, the more likely it is we will actually complete the run at the end. In any case, here we collect Lusat's staff, which is gonna be our main staff for the rest of the run. Thanks to that boss fight, we now have some extra runes on hand, which we will be now using to buy Assassin's Gambit from the Twin Maiden after giving her Bernal's Bell Bearing. The reason why we only now give her the bell bearing is because you needed to join Volcano Manor first for Gambit to even appear in the shop. Pretty cool, right? With Gambit in our possession, we truly unlock the full potential of the run. This is single-handedly the most useful Ash of War in the game, but no casual player would ever think of actually using it. Gambit makes you pretty much completely invisible to all enemies around you, as long as you have some distance between them. From here on out, Gambit will be constantly activated to reduce the likelihood of anybody spotting us. We are now officially playing a stealth build in a From Software game. Now we want to go back to Volcano Manor to grab 3 things. First, we collect the Earthtree Seal. The reason for that will be apparent at the endgame. Next, after carefully traversing the lava, we collect the Somber 6 and the Somber 5 Smithing Stone respectively. We now have all the upgrades for the staff, we just need the runes. So we finally go up to the entrance of the capital. We use the back alleyway to sneak past the Rune Bear and the Tree Sentinel to access the front entrance. We then maneuver straight to the Draconic Tree Sentinel. Taking the lower path through the moat is gonna be useful for avoiding all the golem archers. We then hop onto the Spirit Spring to get us to our desired destination. While using Gambit, we sneak behind the tree sentinel until we are right up to his butt. And here, we use the tried and tested, most safest strategy to overcoming poison. Here is a question to you. Would you react if you were poisoned? Well, the sentinel's answer is a resounding no. He simply just doesn't give a flying asshat. He just sits there and takes it. And after around 10 minutes or so, he finally goes down, giving us access to the capital and around 50,000 runes. Very, very nice. With that, we're gonna level up our arcane to 15, and the rest we will keep to upgrade our staff. Our setup for the run is nearly completed. We wanna go back to Limgrave to collect the Carrion Royal Scroll. After delivering it to the Dog Pope, we can buy from him Carrion Slicer. It's busted honestly, as you will see shortly. The last things are located deep in Siofra River. To avoid the dangers of this place, we take a precise route directly to the teleporter in the middle of the area. This together with Gambit should be sufficient enough to keep us safe. After we are teleported, we get to this building. Here we want to throw a kukri into the right wall to distract all the enemies here. That way we can easily pick off the scarab in the middle of the building. Night Comet is an invisible spell, so it doesn't aggro the enemies here. The scarab will drop us the spell Great Oracular Bubble. We finish things off here by grabbing Medica's Scar Seal just underneath the waterfall at the end of the basin. The bubble is the main reason why most of the boss fights from now on will not require any knowledge of the boss's attack patterns. It is actually kind of stupid how powerful this spell turned out to be. Not even Miyazaki envisioned this. We are now officially prepared to fight the bosses. So let's go get a good luck hug from our waifu Fia and transform into a real man that can bear the weight of this challenge properly. The first boss on our list is gonna be the Crystallian Duo, located in the Academy Crystal Cave. The access to this cave requires 2 stone sword keys, so now you know why we picked them up at the start. To get safe access to the boss room, we're gonna be using a lot of Gambit in combination with slow and steady sneaking around the entire area. Once we are in front of the boss arena, we're gonna sneak behind the enemy until we manage to stick to the fog gate. If we just keep Gambit on, we're gonna be completely safe. We want to enter the room while we are still under the influence of Gambit. That way the boss will not register us and we can prepare our sneak attack. After throwing a kukri at the wall as a distraction, we are going to fire 3 rock slings onto the Crystallian with the staff. We need to take him out first cause he has ranged attacks. After he is dealt with, the other one shouldn't be any problem whatsoever. Just keeping the distance and spamming the 3 rocks should be more than enough to take him completely out. The felling of that boss gives us access to Terra Magica, the most powerful buff for sorceries. It's going to synergize wonderfully with the bubble spell. After that's been accomplished, we want to teleport over to the lower part of the Dectus Lift. From here we want to make our way to the Frenzied Flame Tower. The way to do that safely is by using Gambit and hugging the cliffs to the right as not to get hit by the damage proc from the Frenzied Eye. Once we are near the Spirit Spring, we hop on just as the eye starts to fade and gracefully jump into the tower. Here we first collect Howl of Shabriri. It will prove to be extremely useful later in the endgame. Now we just need to assassinate the Frenzy Mancers by giving them a nice soapy shower, free of charge of course. After they're dead, the eye disappears and the area is 100% safe. From here we want to jump down, carefully mind you, onto the Minor Erdtree Plateau and slowly walk behind the tree and the Erdtree avatar while Gambit is in use. Here near the pot we want to set up all of our buffs in order. Golden Vow into Gambit into Terra Magica. Now what we need to do are 4 bubble shots followed by a Rock Sling Blast. Unfortunately, one bubble burst prematurely, so we did miss a bit of damage here. This guy also tried to one-up me by casting this bullshit attack. Thankfully, running to the side is a consistent way to avoid it completely. Carrion Slicer is the finisher here. With the absurd damage output that it provides, the tree is very easily felled. And for our troubles, it rewards us with the Magic Shrouding Cracked here, another 20% damage boost. Let us take a deep breath here, cause now we are finally moving on to the main bosses. Which means I can finally reveal the fruits of our labor. Let's go and make some bubbles. We start off with our standard buffing routine. We then move just before this patch of grass and proceed to cast 4 bubbles respectively. And the bubble. I don't think there exists an easier kill on Margit, wouldn't you agree? We are still not allowed to celebrate though, cause passing through Stormveil Castle is going to require quite a great deal of trickery, so I do propose to pay careful attention. First, we sneak past the ballistas with Gambit, hugging the right wall of the entrance until we get to the Grace next to the Divine Tower. From here, we continue going forwards until we step onto the lower part of the staircase along the main path. Here, the maneuver is the following. Throw 2 kukris, one above the ballista and the other one into the side of the lower wall. Sprint forward and wait for the other ballista to fire. Now, don't stop and just march on forward, taking out this enemy in the process. That is the hard part. Once you get into the blockade, you are almost perfectly safe and ready to take on the first Shard Bearer. Thankfully, unlike that previous part, Godric is going to be so easy, I'm pretty sure my dog could even accomplish this strategy. Activate Red Feather with Bloody Slash and buff outside of the arena. Once you enter, cast Terra Magica and start spamming 3 charged Night Comets. Once then he transitions into the second phase, just finish him off with some beautiful Carry and Slicer combinations. I hope you can see a little bit why I propose that you don't actually need to be good to no-hit this game. So far we are doing very good. A lot of the hard parts are behind us and we are getting stronger by the minute. There is one last thing that we want to grab here now that Godric has been defeated. We go back to our previous grace and proceed to sprint over the Divine Tower bridge. Interestingly, you can avoid all of the Golem's attacks by just sticking to the right of the bridge while you are under the influence of Gambit. You just need to bait out one shot of the archer once you are in this pit, and then the teleporter is perfectly safe for grabs. Easy peasy. We can now activate Godric's Great Rune at the top of the tower, which will provide us with +5 to all stats throughout the rest of the run, which is just extremely helpful. Oh, and by the way, you pretty much just need to dump points into intelligence as we go along. Sometimes leveling a bit of endurance is fine too, but only after intelligence is at a high enough level. Now, you have probably guessed that since we are a magic user, we are not gonna be able to take down Renala for the second shard. And you are correct. But that doesn't really bother us, cause Radahn is honestly much more simpler to take out, believe it or not. Before we get to him, we can actually still get one more upgrade to make him even easier actually. The upgrade is located just beside the upper part of the Dectus Lift on the Altos Plateau. Hidden in an Everjail, locked behind one Stone Sword key, lies our other Godric, or Godefroy as a matter of fact. As in the previous fights, we go through the regular buffing routine, and set up Terra Magica at the end of the arena. Here we cast 4 bubbles again, and leave the arena to activate the boss fight immediately. If we follow up the bubble shots with Rocksling, he will actually get staggered, allowing us to dish out some nice damage with Slicer. I messed up a bit here, but it's not gonna matter that much. Now all you need to do is stay vigilant and bait out the tornado attack. By staying close enough, he will always go into the barrel roll variation, which you can easily sidestep to slap his ass with some good old Carry and Slicer. That's the essence of the fight, and sure enough, Godefroy will eventually go down easily, giving us Godfrey's icon, boosting our damage even further beyond. The bubbles are now gonna start doing some hefty damage to anyone foolish enough to step near them. We're gonna make a perfect example of that, and it's going to be General Radahn. The trip to the castle can be a bit scary, but just be careful, avoid the dogs and the birds, and you should probably be okay. For this fight, all the buffing needs to be done outside of the arena. That way we will have more time to set up the bubbles and get a very clean kill. Once we hop inside, we despawn him first to make him come towards us and cast Terra Magica. We proceed to fire 4 bubble shots directly at him. They should do ample damage to make him start transitioning into his other phases, during which we will have ample time to just beat him down with Night Comets. I just realized watching this that a Night Comet shot does over 1000 damage, which is just not okay, Miyazaki. Radahn overall is pretty simple with his strategy, and with that we get our second Great Rune, and by proxy access to the Royal Capital. The capital is overall really simple to traverse in earnest. Just remember to keep Gambit on and use the rooftops to your advantage. Rooftop parkour allows you to avoid most of the dangerous enemies here. The knights can be a bit of a problem, but it's nothing a little bit of sneaking around can't fix at the end. Once you get to the tree though, you will realize how much Gambit actually makes this run easier. Just imagine if you didn't have it here. All of these enemies would be wanting to take a bite out of your well-calloused ass. Anyways, the setup for Godfrey is as with the previous bosses. Buff, Terra Magica, and then 4 bubbles. It will not be enough for him though, so you will need to finish him off with some good old trusty Night Comet. And that's all she wrote, baby. On our way to Morgoth, this assassin seems like he provides a bit of trouble, but we can just run past her and hide behind the bed until she loses interest in us. Alright, so far all the bosses have been super cheesable and easy to deal with our setup. Surely Morgoth is gonna provide more of a challenge, right? Well, first of all, we want to trigger the fight and then immediately leave it at once using the Memory of Grace item. For our strategy to work, we need to be spawned further away from him. The strat here is going to be similar to the Crystallian duo. After almost setting up Red Feather, we gambit and head straight into the fight. Morgoth has aged quite a lot, so his eyesight is pretty shit, and with Gambit on, he can't even see us at all. So you all know what that means? It's bubble time. We move to the central pillar to the right of the arena. Here, after all the buffs are applied, we cast 4 bubbles and then proceed to aggro him while spamming Night Comets. He's gonna go into his second phase, and while he does so, you just need to be patient and wait for the right opportunity to strike, to end his existence with the final Night Comet. GG Morgoth, you have fought well. Don't forget to give him a nice gentleman's teabag before taking Melina's hand again for the rolled medallion and access to the mountaintops of the giants. We have now officially no-hitted half of the game. That already deserves celebration in my opinion, but stopping at this would really be a shame. So with fire in our hearts, we will continue onwards to victory. On our ride up the mountain, we will collect first the Somber 7 smithing stone and a bit later on the Somber 8 smithing stone. These final areas are really vast, and with Gambit on, you really shouldn't be hit by anybody. At least it never happened to me. Once you are near the frozen lake, you can use a safer path, which is the invisible bridge, to cross onto the upper part of this place. And a short while later, you will be just in front of the one, the only, Firefucker. Be sure to have upgraded the staff to +9 before you face him. You will also be needing exactly 6 sleep pods. You can grab 2 more in Stormvale Castle if needed. The strat for him is a bit more complicated, unfortunately. First we want to break his leg using Carrion Slicer. Once it breaks, we want to throw 2 sleep pods at him and send him into a dream. Now we just need to continue with the Carrion Slicer spam, but stop to refill our mana at the last possible second just before he enters the second phase. Then, immediately upon phase 2, we fire 3 rock slings into his stupid face to stagger him, and then proceed to beat up his eye with, you guessed it, even more Slicer spam. I did mess it up here a bit, but Slicer does a lot of damage, so that mistake was quickly corrected. Fire Giant down. We are now officially at the endgame. A few more bosses and we are done. A quick checkup beforehand. This is what our stats are going to be looking like so far. Some endurance goes a long way when it comes to continuous castings of spells. After we, for a final time, take Melina's beautiful hand, we get booted onto Farum Azula. Here the strategy for traversal of this place is Gambit, Gambit, and guess what? Gambit. If anything sees you here, guess what? You're dead, like a chicken. So do be careful of this area, because the enemies aggro here quite fast, but if you sprint through fast enough while having Gambit activated, they shouldn't be able to beat you up. Foreskin duo time, ladies and gentlemen. First we want to sneak behind the knight guarding the area. Now we jump down the balcony while keeping Gambit activated. Here we want to trigger the fight and throw 2 sleep pods as a distraction. If you mess up like me, you can just throw an additional one. Here is one big tip for the fight. Don't kill them outright. Wait for them to stand up first after damaging them, before finishing them off. That way you have a longer hitbox that you can hit, and they will die before they even have a chance to respawn again. The sleep mechanic honestly makes this fight a little bit too easy. The next big problem is gonna be the bird part. The walk over there shouldn't provide you with any problems though, at least. For the birds, I'll just recommend you take them out one by one. Honestly, I don't trust these flying feathery fucks. They have killed me too often to even count. And also, don't rush. The lightning from the dragon can be a bit confusing to say the least. Thankfully, we can make him go away by shooting him with the longbow's weapon skill once we get to the lower part of the rooftop. From here, most of the danger has been vanquished, and we are free to collect our final Somber Smithing Stone. For the rest, just slowly take out the Beastmen. The one that shoots boomerangs at you is also simply taken out by our trusty Night Comet Gambit combo. And for the rest, we can just run past by like we have nothing to worry about in the world. Okay, Malekith time. He's actually really simple, believe it or not. But on my current run, he was very passive and actually didn't rush me unlike he usually does. So what I'm going to do is create a save file here, so I can also show you the way this fight is most likely gonna go down. First, the setup is done in a way that Terra Magica is gonna be cast outside of the arena. And after passing the fog gate, we need to stick very close to the gate and not waste any time shooting our 3 bubbles. You need to start shooting the bubbles immediately upon entering the arena. They will do enough damage to send him into phase 2 and also build up poise damage. Immediately upon phase 2, we cast the 4th bubble while slowly moving away from him. That hit will stagger him, leaving him at the mercy of my Carrion Slicer. Voila! The scripted Malekith bubble kill. You saw on the right how when he rushed me, that you have just enough time to finish the cast and dodge the attack, but you do need to be brave. The finish line is so close I can smell the victory in the air. Gideon is a nice and relaxing kill after the Beastman. Stay in the middle here and cast your 3 bubbles. Just don't trigger the fight prematurely, and Gideon should disappear faster than a fart in the wind. Very relaxing. Now we come to my favorite kill, the mostly scripted Giga Chat. Like with Morgoth, the first time we enter, we want to leave the fight immediately with the Memory of Grace. Though unlike Morgoth, we don't actually even need Gambit for this fight. The setup is actually going to be the same as with Malekith. After we enter the fight, we cast 5 bubbles this time while hugging the wall and staying in Terra Magica. We are going to be needing the extra bubble here. Once those attacks land, they should push him straight into phase 2. Upon its start, you will hit him with 2 slicer swings, which push him further into his ground shake. Now we just need to elegantly dodge all of his ground attacks and finish him off with our good old Carrion Slicer again. Not even the almighty Godfrey has a chance against the bubble spells. Boys and girls, there is only one more boss remaining, the final boss. Unfortunately, it's not that simple for him. This is where the usefulness of the bubble actually stops. And it's not because of Radagon, it's because of the Elden Beast actually. He gives us no time to do any type of setup. Fortunately though, I do have a very simple strat for him, but it requires a full respec of our character into Faith. Meaning we need to defeat Renala. Don't worry though, it's not actually as bad as it sounds. Just bear with me here. First of all, we gotta take down Commander Niall. This is easily accomplished by sneaking behind him, applying all of our buffs and just feathering him to pieces with Night Comet. That is followed by a series of conversations with both Gauri and Millicent until she makes her way to the Erdtree Gazing Hill. Now we gotta get our ass into the Shaded Castle. Be careful when traveling over there. There are some aggressive enemies on the path. Once you're at that place, you wanna go through this exact same path like here, by clearing out slowly all the dangerous enemies and jumping around the rooftops. I did mess it up here a bit and fell down into an area that I shouldn't be in, but I managed to save the run by the skin of my teeth by jumping onto the tombstone really quickly. Now we just gotta continue onwards until we reach the chest that hides the Valkyrie's prosthesis. We need to give it to Millicent before we kill her. That way her questline will progress far enough as to when we kill Gauri, he will give us his full belt bearing and the talisman as well. Now we can buy Pest Threads together with Catch Flame, which will be our 2 main damage sources. Spells are one thing, but we also need to upgrade the Erdtree seal that we picked up way back. I did mess up a bit during this run. I forgot to collect the extra Somber Smithing Stones located on the main route. So I had to backtrack a bit to grab the +9 Somber Smithing Stone and the +7 Somber Smithing Stone in Faromazula, as well as the Somber Stone Miner's Bell-bearing tree located at the Freezing Lake. The +10 Somber Smithing Stone can luckily be acquired straight in the Ashen capital. Just be careful not to piss off the gargoyle here. Believe me, you don't want that. The last 3 things that are needed are gonna be Golden Vow on Mount Gelmir. Anastasia does pay you a visit here, but Night Comet does quick work of her, fortunately. The other 2 are the Flame Shroud in Cracktier, located behind the Putrid Avatar in Caelid. An easy fight. Just do the usual bubble setup on the tree branch, and the fight shouldn't even last a second, honestly. We then just need 1 Larval Tear for the respec. The quickest way to get one is in the Albinuric village. With all of that collected, it's time to go beat up Renala. My main tip for the academy is going to be patience, gambit and clearing out some of the enemies for safety. The one tricky part is the graveyard though, but honestly I find it quite safe as long as you keep moving forwards. Do remember, hesitation is defeat. Before the Red Wolf we want to grab the Graven Skull Talisman here. The reason for that is, after all the buffs are applied and we enter the fight with Gambit, we are literally just gonna one-shot the poor wolf. Honestly, rest in peace. That should have been illegal. The path to Renala is a bit treacherous though, so I'm gonna do it in 2 attempts. On the first one we want to take down the Knight Mongrum with Night Comet, after avoiding the boulder of course. And once he's no more, we are free to go back to finish our setup and access the boss fight. Now you might be wondering, how is this going to work? Well, in the immortal words of Todd Howard, it just works. No really, it just works. Seriously, we do so much damage that even her 80% magic resistance barely matters at this point. In the second phase, only 3 rock slings are enough to delete her entire health bar in seconds. So there is little to worry about for the fight as you can see. Now with Renala on our side, the following respect will be achieved. Dump basically everything into Faith and some leftover points into Mind and Endurance respectively. With the current build that we have, the Rada Beast should really start shaking in its boots right now. The setup now is a bit different. Golden Vow into the Flask into Hollow Shabriri, and with that we go in. Upon entering the fight, we start off with 4 Catch Flame Blasts, which trigger Radagon to do his phase transitions. Dodging everything respectfully, we are able to beat him in under 20 seconds by continuous Catch Flame spam. Before we are forced into the Elden Beast fight, we activate Howl once more. At the start of the Elden Beast fight, we are just going to spam our nut into his stupid face. Here the Elden Beast did something that almost made me crap my pants, but luckily I just had enough time to actually avoid that stupid attack, and then proceed to take my revenge on him for giving me a goddamn heart attack. And that's it, my first successful no-hit run. Hopefully this will be of help to you guys as well. If you enjoyed this run/guide, please subscribe to the channel. I've got a ton of stupid ideas and even more videos are on the way together with weekly streams. For now though, I'm gonna go take a rest and I'll see you in the next one.